I'm confused with the many cameras Fuji has to offer. Which one should I get? It's one of the most popular questions that I get on this channel besides boxers or brief. Well, don't worry guys, I'll make this video short and sweet and answer the question right now. Commando. Oh, my jokes are so lame. So in today's video, I'm going to try to explain to you what cameras you should get, as some of you guys are confused with the camera lines in the Fujifilm system. Let's just get something out right now, regardless if it's a flagship camera or a mid-ranger or the budget-friendly cameras. For the most part, they're going to have the same sensor. So ultimately, they're going to take the same photos, have the same colors and sharpness and image quality. So nothing changes in that regard. It's the other features that you are paying for, like the video features, the body, the design, the handling of it, etc. Fujifilm likes to put the same sensor into every one of their camera bodies, from the XT line, the X100 lines, the XPRO lines, the list goes on. So rest assured, if you are confused with the different lines of cameras, they all have the same image quality. Let's just start with the Flagship X camera and work our way down. This is the Fujifilm XH2 and the XH2S. These cameras are for the pros, the working professionals, the hybrid users, and it's the cream of the crop when it comes to the X cameras. But being that it is the cream of the crop means that it does come at a premium. So if you have the money and you can justify it, by all means. They're both great cameras. The XH2 and the S have the same body, which is incredible because it is weather sealed and it has a great hand grip with the spam dial. They don't have the retro dials that the core Fuji customers love, and that's okay. And that's why we have different camera bodies that I'm going to mention in this video. So stay tuned for that. The Fujifilm XH2S has a 26 megapixel stack sensor. It can film 6.2K open gate and has better rolling shutter performances due to its stack sensor, and also has one stop more of dynamic range and can film 4K 120, something that the XH2 cannot do. The XH2 has the 40 megapixel sensor, can shoot 8K video, and has cool features like the 2x digital zoom because of its 8K sensor, but it has less dynamic range and poorer rolling shutter performances because it's not a stacked sensor camera. Just know that if you purchase the XH2 or the S, you're going to need to invest in a CF Express Type B memory card, even if you don't use its full video capabilities. You can't go wrong with either camera, just pick the flavors you vibe with the most. People always ask me which one do I like the most because I do own both of these cameras, and I gotta say I like them equally for different reasons. One camera is strictly for photography and the other one is for video, but if I were to start over and choose only one, if someone pointed a gun at me and said you can only choose one, which one would it be? I would choose the Fujifilm XH2S. The 26 megapixels is enough for me. Shooting at 40 megapixels leads to more storage needed, and more storage means more money being spent because you're buying memory cards and hard drives and etc. This is also something to consider if you're purchasing the X-T5 as well, because it does share the same 40 megapixel sensor. Speaking of the X-T5, the next cameras I want to talk about are the mid-ranger specialty cameras. I would say before the XH2 and the S was out, I would consider these the flagship cameras. It's the best of the best in its category. We got the XT5, the XPRO line, such as the XPRO 3, that's the latest one, but the XPRO 4 should be coming out soon. I don't know when. And then we also have X100 line, so right now we are at the Fujifilm X100V. All three have different unique bodies and aesthetics, but they all have the same image sensor. That seems to be Fuji's MO. Make a flagship camera and then have their sensor trickle down to these other bodies. It's like what Reggie B said in one of his videos.
Fujifilm is really kind of like the Taco Bell. So the cool thing about Taco Bell is you literally can go to the restaurant and you know that like the filling, the meat that they have inside and the sauce and all that stuff is absolutely phenomenal, assuming you like Taco Bell. It really just hits the spot, it gets a job done, and you know, if you have that craving, it fills it, but you can get it in any type of form. So you can have a taco, you can have a chalupa, you can have a burrito, you can have a Crunchwrap Supreme. I hope you kind of hear where I'm going with this. They're still using all the same insides. So the cool thing is the X100V, the XE3, the XE4, the XE4, the XS10, all those cameras use the same internals. They all have the same sensor, all the same processor, but you can have different types of shooting experiences, different types of feature sets to fit the photographer that you are, the videographer that you are.
The Fujifilm X-T5 is where I find most people are going to look into. It has a retro, sleek aesthetics. and I think it's one of the prettiest cameras out right now. I like the small and compact form factor of it. I think it fits my hand a bit better than the XH2S. The retro dials where you can control the exposure such as the ISO, the shutter speed, makes this a much more engaging way to shoot. It will remind you of the film days. So if you're interested in a 40 megapixel sensor that is not the XH2 because you don't need the hand grip, the bright EVF, and you want a more sleek low retro profile, the Fujifilm X-T5 is the only camera with the 40 megapixel sensor so far. It also has the dual SD card, so you don't have to worry about investing in one of the CF Express memory cards. I think for someone that is serious about their photography or content creation, the X-T5 has a little bit of everything you need to get started. Let's move on to the XPRO line. I find this camera is for the hipsters and the cool kids out there. You know, the ones with the beanies and their hats. They're backwards wearing hats. It's for the people that wants an analog experience. I've only shot with an XPRO camera for like a few days. I didn't get to use it as much, but I know the way it handles, it's not for me. But if you like a stylish, retro looking camera with an interchangeable lens mount, this camera is it. This camera is more for the photography purists out there. Although it can film video and you want stuff like log recording and 10-bit color, this is not the camera to get. Again, it takes the same images as the other cameras, so image quality is not affected. But once this XPRO line gets a refresh, it's probably going to get the 40 megapixel sensor like the X-T5. The current XPRO 3 and the X100V both have the previous X-Trans sensor inside, so we are waiting for them to get a refresh. And let's talk about the Fujifilm X100 series camera. If you think the XPRO camera is for the hipsters, the X100 series is definitely for the hipsters and the cool kids out there with their beanies and, you know, the cool kid glasses and their cool kid bags. A bunch of cool. Ever since TikTok made this camera so popular, the resale value on this thing is freaking crazy. People are buying it up at 2 to 3 times its retail value, and that's insane, man. I've had owned this camera in the past and I really love it. It's a nice pocket camera with insane horsepower, but it's not as versatile as the other 2 cameras in this group because it's a fixed focal length camera. The lens on this camera does not come off. It is stuck with the 23mm f2 lens, which is the 35mm full frame equivalent, making this camera very appealing for the street photographers, the travelers out there. I like the way the camera feels. I like that this camera has a leaf shutter, which extends their camera life a bit more because it's not using a mechanical shutter. I also like the EVF on this camera. It's bright and it's sharp inside, and I like its hybrid viewfinder. It's a cool little feature that Fujifilm put in, but again, you're going to have to pay a premium if you want all these cool features. The X100V is cool, but I don't think it's worth the resale value. These 3 cameras are what I like to call the mid-rangers of the Fujifilm X cameras. If you're a hybrid shooter, go for the XT cameras such as the XT3, 4, and 5. All have great video specs for you as well as amazing photos. And if you're a hipster or one of those cool kids and you like to slow down your process when you shoot, play with the dials to get that film analog experience, by all means, the XPRO line or the X100 lines, both are fun systems to play with and both take amazing photos. Let's move on to the entry-level cameras. I would say that these cameras are just mini versions of the XPRO line, the XT line, and the XH line. There is the XT10s, 20s, and 30. So this would be the mini XT version of the XT2, 3, 4, 5, etc. It's the bare minimum. You don't have all the things that you would have like in the higher end models, but you have the same sensor that they have. So you can take good photos, but video specs are limited. Build quality is not as premium. I've used the XT10 cameras before, and this camera is super tiny, so this could make a great travel companion. And these cameras in the entry level section does not have weather sealing, so if you want that weather sealing, you're gonna have to go to the next tier up to get it. The XE series is the same thing. It's a mini version of the XPRO camera. The materials don't feel as premium, and again, it's the bare minimum. And if all you hipsters out there are sad that you can't find an X100V camera, take a look at the XE line. It's cheaper and you can change lenses. You don't have the cool features like the X100V, but it's sort of like the mini X100V if you add the 23mm f2 lens on it, minus a few bells and whistles. I actually like the XE camera. I used to own the XE3 and I loved how small and compact it is. It's a great backup camera for days I feel as though size and weight is going to be an issue. There are times I much prefer the smaller form factor. Again, it has the same sensor as the big guys. And then the XS10. I find this to be like a mini version of the XH line. They don't have the retro dials, it's the spam dial to attract folks who may find that the retro dials to be overwhelming to learn at first. But I don't know why they made this camera, because it sort of makes the XT30 redundant. Yes, it's a little bigger than the XT30, but you're getting IBIS and a very good hand grip. It's easy to get caught up in the specs and the hype surrounding the latest cameras, but sometimes the best camera for you is the one that simply speaks to you. Whether you're on a tight budget or looking for a travel companion, there's a camera out there that will suit your need. And the good news is you don't have to break the bank to get great image quality. From the XE4, the XT4, the XPRO 3, the XT10 2030, and the X100V, just to name a few, you can rest assured that you're getting the same outstanding image quality across the board. So take the time to find that camera that feels right for you and start capturing those moments that matter. I hope after this video you understand more about what these lines of Fuji cameras are. I tried to condense it for you guys. Obviously, the onus is still on you to do more research on the camera you're looking into. If you are interested, I'll leave the links to the cameras that I mentioned down in the description below. Let me know what Fuji camera you are interested in. What camera are you shooting with right now at the moment? What are some of your favorite Fuji cameras? Mine is the X-T2 for obvious reasons. Also the Fujifilm X-S10, the X-H2S, and the GFX 100S. As always, my name is Tongue. I'll see you in the next video. I love you.